Welcome to another episode of State of the Wizards. This is episode 53. I'm your host, D-Can, along with my co-host, K. Jose, and we are the voices of the unheard. K. Jose, what's good, bro?
And nothing much, man. We got a lot to talk about. Wiz back-to-back games and a big-ass contract in Major League Baseball.
Oh, yeah, man. I can't believe Juan Soto is coming back to the division, but for all the wrong reasons. What can you do? What can you do? So, K. Jose, tonight we'll discuss the Wizards' win versus the Nuggets at home to snap the 16-game losing streak. Then the Wizards turned right back around and lost to the Memphis Grizzlies at home, 140-112. We'll tap into that. We'll also touch on Jordan Poole's comments about wanting to have the keys to lead this Wizards team going forward. So I want your opinion on that. And we'll briefly discuss former National Juan Soto's massive new contract to the division rival New York Mets. Coming up next on State of the Wizards. Before we get started, if this is your first time tuning into the channel, thank you. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. We want our followers to know we have a brand endorsement opportunity with this to our subscribers. We want to help our local businesses of the DMV. We will post the link in the description of the plan below on this page and how to contact us. We want to promote you. We also have the link of our State of the Wizards store in the description as well. Be sure to check that out. Follow me at Wizards Mafia and follow K. Jose at DC Hoopla on the X app. Also follow us on the Blue Sky app. You can find me at Wizards Mafia and find K. Jose at DC Hoopla on the Blue Sky app as well. Also follow us at State of the Wiz on Instagram and State of the Wiz on the X app and Blue Sky. All right, K. Jose, let's get started, my man. The Wizards beat the Nuggets on Saturday night, 122-113. Jordan Poole had a monster performance with 39 points, 8 assists on 12 of the 26 shooting with 9 threes to help snap the 16-game losing streak. What were your takeaways from that game?
My takeaways from that game, that was actually a pretty good game. We actually played a perfect game, should I say. Probably one of the better games that we've seen so far this season. I mean, you get 23 from Champagnie, you get 20 from Valanciunas, and then you get 39 from Jordan Poole. You know, Bilal only has 6. I would have liked to see him get a little bit more involved, but he was a +8 in the game, so he was impactful on the defense. So It was a really good game. A part of me does feel that we kind of caught Denver on a night that they just mentally took the night off, because the very next night they beat the Hawks with no problem. So when I was watching the game, everything was clicking. We shot 39% from 3. We made 16 about 41 attempts, 72% from the free throw line. We had 31 assists, so we were passing the ball around. I mean, Denver had 34. I mean, we were able to just, first of all, Jokic had 56 points. And if you really look at it, Jokic was really the only player on Denver that was doing something. What's that kid's name? Julian Strother. He had 18 coming off the bench. But really, nobody else for Denver bothered us as much. So a part of me thinks that Denver looked at that Atlanta Hawks game instead of looking at us. I mean, any given night, you can get beat. But it was a very good game by the home team. Like I said, they were clicking on all cylinders, so I can't complain about that at all.
Yeah. Champagnie, man. What can we say about the guy, man? That was his first start of the season. Scored 23 points on 9 for 13 shooting and 36 minutes of play, was a +35.
Yep.
And, if it wasn't obviously for Jordan Poole's 9 threes and having a monster 39-point game, Champagnie would get my player of the game. But the player of the game award had to go to Jordan Poole because even though Nikola Jokic put up 56 points, that was matched by Jordan Poole's 39-point performance, where he shot the ball extremely well from deep. He also had 8 assists.
Yes.
And, I'm sorry, I said Champagny. I said Champagny was a plus 35. No, he's a plus 3,
It was plus
excuse me.
3, yeah.
Yeah, Jordan Poole was a plus 8. So, there was periods during this game where I felt like even though we had the lead, we could, do what we normally do. We get out early, we jump out, and then, we lose the momentum. The team, eventually regains the momentum, and then they go on that 8-9-0 run that we normally see opponents do, and then, we lose it and we can't get it back. In this game, we sustained our high level of play throughout the game, and if for once, man, it was refreshing to see that,
Mm-hmm.
this season. Of course, we know we're going to be a bad team. Of course, we know, we're not expected to win many games this season, but I want to say Saturday night's game to me was indicative of how we would love to see a young, well-balanced, well-performed, led by Jordan Poole team under Coach Brian Keefe. That's what we at least like to see when
Right.
we really start to get it together. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I do agree with that. Again, he had 39 points, 8 assists. Now, he did have 6 turnovers, which is expected when you're handling the basketball as much as he does. He played 40 minutes. So, he basically played less than 8 minutes of the whole game. So basically we would look at it and say he had 8 minutes of rest. But it was a very, very good, like Jordan Poole has been doing his job this season. So I cannot complain with what he's doing. I can't complain even for Valanciunas. I mean, he had 20 and 12. So, and he had 3 offensive rebounds. Like him and Jokic was banging down there in the paint.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
they were literally going back and forth. So, and which was actually good to see.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
and Champagny, I actually liked him during the summer league. I can see that there's been some change in his game, that he's actually starting to get better. So I don't really have an issue with Champagny. So again, I would still say that I think that, because when I was looking at the game, I could just tell that we were just several steps ahead of Denver, and Denver was playing pretty much catch up throughout the whole game. So, and they just could never really get in a rhythm. And to me, it just felt like they weren't mentally into it. And we just took advantage of that. So kudos for the team, the home team, taking advantage of a team that just decided that they wanted to take the night off. We're still a professional basketball team, even though we have, we have as many losses as we have. We're still a professional basketball team. And
Correct.
if you don't pay attention to, if you look at a team's record and just say, you know what, we'll turn it on when we turn it on, you can find yourself losing that night. And that's what I believe, in my opinion, happened with Denver.
Absolutely, man. I agree with you. You know what also stood out to me? K. Jose was the 12 blocks that we had as a team.
Yep.
Valanciunas had 5 blocks by himself. Koulibaly had 3 blocks.
Yeah.
Champagny had 2 blocks. Like, we were very active defensively.
Yes.
And whenever you're seeing that we're in double digits in blocks or double digits in steals, you're doing something right on the defensive end, which then turns your defensive effort into offense. And we haven't seen that much of that displayed this season from this young Wizard squad. So I definitely wanted to point that out. Also, to your point, Bilal did struggle finding his shot this game. He was 2 for 9, 0 for 3 from 3. But he played very well defensively. He played 40 minutes. And while we do harp on the fact that he hasn't found his offensive game, Keefe has been very instrumental on leaving Bilal in the game despite those issues on the offensive end, simply because he's guarding the opposing team's best players, and that's where he's exerting most of his energy.
Right, right. I agree. That's him making an impact elsewhere on the court. When his offense is struggling, then what do you do to impact the game in other ways? And defensively, that's what he's been doing. That's why I call him Cooler Blocky, because he's always blocking shots. So he uses his wingspan to his advantage, and
Mhm.
the offense is going to get there. I'm going to be patient when it comes down to that. We seen glimpse of what he can do offensively last month. So I think eventually we should see it on a consistent basis.
Agreed. Agreed. Um, so that brings me to the next question. The Wizards turned right back around on a back-to-back and lost to the Memphis Grizzlies 140 to 112. And
Hmm.
Poole only scored 9 points that game on 2 for
Hmm.
6 shooting. Jonas had 20 points and Bagley added 20 points off the bench. What stood out to you about the loss the most?
Um, so of course, Poole he struggled, but what stood out to me was Memphis. In my opinion, they were more physical. They definitely was more physical when it came down to Poole. I don't know if they looked at film of when we played against Denver, but what their seemed to me that their strategy was to get the ball out of Poole's hands and dare everybody else to do something else. And if you look at where did we get our offensive production, we got 20 from Bagley off the bench. We had 20 from Valanciunas. So Valanciunas had another double-double, 20 and 14.
Yep.
Bilal actually had 17 points, but he had 5 fouls. Um, but with Poole having the off game that he had, I mean, he only took 6 shots and he was 1 for 4 from downtown. He was a minus 28. He actually took care of the basketball in this game, but I did notice that Memphis was just playing way more physical in this game. And Poole was never, ever able to get to his comfort spots as he wanted to. I know I read some people said that Jalen Wells was grabbing his jersey or what have you, but it's just Memphis was just way more physical, and we didn't answer to that. We had no answer for the physicality in the game whatsoever. When you get 19 points, I mean, and plus two, Memphis was burying their threes, man. I mean, they kept hitting their threes. They made 17 of 43 of their 3-point attempts, and we
Uh-huh.
shot poorly from downtown. We shot 18%
Yeah.
from the 3-point range. They shot 52% from the field to our 43%. I mean, and then we went to the free throw line more than they did, but they hit 90% of their free throws.
Uh-huh.
So, and I think one last stat was they had 76 bench points to like our 45. So their bench murdered us last night. Like they murdered us. I mean, so to me, man, I just looked at it that we Memphis did exactly what they were supposed to do. They whooped our ass. Let's just call it what it is. And they were very physical last night, and we just had no answer to the physicality of Memphis.
One thing that stood out to me, obviously, last night was the physicality of Memphis against Jordan Poole. But that's what happens when, you're coming off a 39-point game just the night before. It's easier to scout you when you just came off of a big performance and you literally turn right back around. And teams know that, you want to become the leader. You are the leader of this team. You said as much. So the expectations for the Memphis Grizzlies was obviously to shut down Jordan Poole. They didn't want Jordan Poole to get hot or stay
Right.
hot. So the idea was to kind of box and one him, during the game. And
Correct.
and Brian Keefe said as much. He said, credit to Memphis's defense for kind of boxing one of them, throughout the game. Now, you know, I said my piece on Wizards Twitter. Some people came back at me or whatever about me asking the question if this is really what Jordan Poole wants as a leader, if he wants the keys. And we'll talk about that in the next segment, because I think that's something that we can further elaborate and discuss on throughout the show, whether or not we truly believe Jordan Poole's ready for that role, because it wasn't just last night. Jordan Poole has kind of a habit of showing up and not showing up. You know what I'm saying? And what about those games where they weren't playing boxing one on you? You know, what about those games where you just had a poor shooting performance, where you did shoot, 3 for 17 or 3 for 16? You know, that has happened in the Wizards jersey. So no need to pretend like, Jordan Poole isn't capable of having a great game one game and then turn around and have a complete disaster next game. I think a lot of Wizards fans can attest to these types of Jordan Poole disappearances. So he didn't score in the first half last night. And here's my thing. Last night's game, full display of just Memphis Grizzlies physicality, Memphis Grizzlies shooting the basketball at a very high clip. It exposed the Wizards defense on the perimeter, so it brings me to this point. If they're boxing wanting you and you can't get your offense, what did I just say in the last segment about how well we played against the Nuggets? What did we do? Well, we played defense, right? So, you want to be able to turn defense into offense. And I just don't see that. I didn't see that enough last night in last night's game. For example, we had 12 blocks against the Nuggets, right? We had 5 blocks last night. And then, but we did have 10 steals. I think Champagnie had 5. Champagnie had 5 steals by himself. So he had a very good performance. He scored 14 points, 8 rebounds. He didn't have any assists, but he shot well from the field, and he had 5 steals. And he was the most efficient player on the floor, as he was only a -12 when everybody else was a -20.
Right.
So that's what I mean when I say, impact in the game. Look, it's true. He didn't have the ball. Jordan Poole didn't have the ball in his hands. I get it, but I've said this before. When you are the leader, and I would say this even about Bradley Beal when he was here, when you're the leader, there's just certain things that you can do, that you should do, and that you shouldn't do as a leader. And those things is what you're being judged on. You're not being judged on anything else other than how you plan on the basketball court. For Jordan Poole, it's not personal. It's just a critique in his game that I think he can work on. But clearly, if you feel like you're not getting the basketball because the defense is just not allowing you to get the basketball, then find other ways to get the basketball. How many times have you seen? All right, my bad. Yeah, sorry about that. We had some technical difficulties there. What was the last thing you heard? I had a question for you.
You said, when was the last time, and then that's when you froze up. But how many times? No, I think you said how many times. You started out with how many times have I seen, and then you froze up right after that.
Oh, I was saying, how many times have you seen a player go up to a player when they can't get the ball and they get very close to the offensive player with the ball? They basically go get the ball, and then in the half court they utilize an offensive play for themselves. How many times have you seen someone like maybe a Steph Curry do that? Basically asserting themselves even though they're not allowing the defense to dictate their offense. How many times have you seen that?
We've seen it quite a few times. I mean, not just Steph. I mean, even when it come down to Mike, not to put him in that category, but there are players that will make those type of adjustments. So there's quite a few. The thing is, when it comes down to Jordan Poole, is that some people would say, well, he's not a guy like Bradley Beal, or he's not a guy that moves well off the basketball like maybe a Reggie Miller. Like, he has to have the ball in his hands. So as you were talking, I'm looking at what he's averaging this month. Here's one thing I am seeing, and this is going to, well, you know what? I'll save that. I'm going to save that to the next segment when you ask the question as far as the keys to the city. That's kind of what it's leading to.
All right, give me a second. I'm having some technical difficulties here with my camera, but you can hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
All right. Okay, so, all right, next segment. Let's go ahead and get started on that. and then I'll work on my camera. I don't know what the hell's going on right now, but K. Jose, Jordan Poole says he wants the keys to lead this team after his performance versus the Nuggets on Saturday. Do you feel he's ready?
I'm kind of iffy on that one. I will say that I do appreciate his leadership. He has played well, but I am also noticing that he's saying this when his numbers have actually dipped since October. So in the month of October, he was putting up 22.5 points, shooting 45% from the field. We'll go ahead and round it off, say 46% from the field, shooting 57% from three. Let me make sure I'm looking at the months. Yeah, shooting 57% from three. All right, that's what he was shooting. So he was averaging 20.5. Now in the month of November, he's still averaging 20 and a, he's actually his numbers dropped to 20 and a half. And his percentage dropped down to 44.4, and his 3-point percentage dropped down to 36%. Now this month, he's shooting he's actually scoring 18 points so far this month. His field goal percentage dropped down to 38. His 3-point percentage kind of still stayed the same. And even his free throws had dropped down to 75%. And the losses so far this month, he's put up 13 points against Cleveland, 11 against Dallas, and 9 last night.
Mm-hmm.
Is he ready to lead? I would say no, not yet, because I'm seeing a little bit of inconsistency from him. However, I will say that I do like the fact he wants to become the leader. But when a team can be physical against you, like Memphis was last night, to the point that you were not effective, and I ain't gonna really get on too much about that. To me, it's just kind of crazy to ask for the keys when you just put up 9 points. Now, credit.
Well, he asked for the keys. He asked for the keys to his defense or his credit. He asked for the keys after the 39-point game. That's when he asked for the
keys. Then it's kind of relevant once you put up 9. But against Memphis, I mean, still, I'm going to give credit to Memphis defense on that one. I'm not going to be too critical of them, but I just don't. I would say no, not yet, not yet.
Yeah, man, I guess my thing is I don't mind him becoming the leader. We talked about this with DJ when he was on, and we said we don't know who the young leader is going to be. Once guys like Brogdon and Valanciunas and Kuz leave, because those are kind of your vet leadership in the locker room. Those are the vet voices. And I said, we don't really know who the young leader is going to be. Well, DJ posed to us that he believed that Jordan Poole would be the young leadership and the young voice for some of those young guys, because, so far he's taken them under his wing, and he's been very, very, consistent with at least showing that side of leadership. And we know how important it is to be a leader off the court, but it also needs to be displayed on the court. So my thing is when it comes down to his lack of leadership on the court, it's not just getting hot. We know you can hit the 3 ball. We know you've improved this season. You're consistent 20 points per game. But to your point, K. Jose, look at his games where he's had a big game. Look, like this is the point that I was trying to make to people last night. That was basically getting at me, because I simply said, he needs to become more consistent. All right. So he scored 22 against Detroit on November 17th. He turns around on the 18th against the Knicks and scores 8 points.
Right.
Boston, he scores 23 points. He turns around and plays the Clippers on the 27th of November and scores 8 points.
Right.
He scores 31 points against Milwaukee on the 30th of November. He turns around on December 3rd
Puts up
and puts up
13.
13 against the Cavs.
Mm-hmm.
Then he had an 11-point game against Dallas on the 5th.
Yeah.
And then that's when you saw the breakout game, the 39-point game on Saturday against the Nuggets. And then he turned right back around and only scored 9 against Memphis. So here's my thing. Are we just saying this because we know that we're lacking the leadership on the team? So is Jordan Poole more so the de facto leader? Or do
Yeah.
we truly believe that Jordan Poole can become a leader? Because a leader cannot score at 22 and then 8, 23, then 8, 31, then 13. That's not kind of what a leader does. I get it. You know, there's other ways to lead, but in order for Jordan Poole to become a leader, the whole point is he has to be consistent. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean he does, and it's something about Cleveland where he scores under 15 points because against Cleveland, back in October 26th, he had 14, and then just recently, should I say on the third, he only had 13. So, and it was crazy. He only played 24 minutes those two games,
Mm-hmm.
and I think he's more of the de facto. Let's call it what it is. I think that Will Dawkins came from OKC, and one of the players that he traded for is SGA, who came from the Clippers. And SGA is the leader of the OKC Thunder. So I want to say that I think Will Dawkins views Poole as his SGA for the Wizards. The issue is we don't know who our Jalen Williams is. We don't know if Sarr will turn out to be a Chet. We just have a lot of question marks with our roster right now. So I think Poole is just doing that because who's supposed to be the leader on this team? Bulletproof. As you can see, he's most likely on his way out. So Poole is volunteering, like, let me go ahead and take that leadership position.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like I have to. And again, I'm not going to get on him too much about last night's game. I don't really think it was too much he could have done to make that much of an impact. I mean, they were being physical with the guy. If they were grabbing on his jersey, they were grabbing on it. They were making sure that, screens wasn't being set. So I don't know, but I think it's just more of Poole just saying, I need to be the leader because the guy who's supposed to be leading the team, I know you're getting ready to trade.
And see, I guess that's where I'm at. My dude is like, he's the de facto leader, and I don't want to harp on it too much, but it's just something that I think we have to be honest with ourselves about. When you draft your young stud this summer, are we automatically saying at that point, Poole, we gave you the keys in December, but now it's time to rip those keys out and give them to Ace Bailey or Cooper Flagg, or you know what I'm saying? Like, how serious are we about Jordan Poole being the leader of this franchise? Because I know for a fact the moment we draft whoever we're going to draft this summer, we're rolling out the red carpet for that guy.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if the Wizards, for those who are putting all their stock in Cooper Flagg, if Cooper Flagg is that player, if we get the number one pick, then yes, it's automatic. You're handing the keys to him. If you're not handing the keys to him, you're handing the keys to Ace Bailey because that's supposed to be your franchise player. So, and Poole understands that. Or, I mean, what is the timing? How long, how much of a tenure do we think, not even tenure, how many years do we really think Poole is going to be here? To be honest with you,
Exactly.
I don't think he really fits the timeline. Some people would say he does, but I don't think he does. I think at one point, to what I just said earlier, that Will Dawkins looks at him as his SGA. But if you bring in Ace or Flagg, or really it's going to have to be those two. Some people would say Dylan Harper is also a franchise player. Any one of those guys, you're handing the keys to that guy.
Mm-hmm.
And you're building for the future. And then you go into 2026, and let's just say you luck up and you get AJ Diabonsa. Come on, man. I mean, what are we really talking about here?
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, you're pretty much speaking my language. You're basically saying what I'm saying is like, I don't know if we're really truly serious about making Jordan Poole the leader of this franchise. Look, I love Jordan Poole's game. There was a point, and you remember me saying this. I said, my dude, I don't know how much more I can take of, the heat check Jordan Poole. It was unbearable to watch last season. And then, going into this season, you can tell he worked on his game this summer.
Yeah.
Those games, I mean, the games where he got hot and it gets hot and he gets very streaky, you love that Jordan Poole. That's a Jordan Poole you're saying, man, I wish I can get this every game. If you get that every game, he's an all-star. If you get that Jordan Poole every game, he's averaging 26, 27, and he's an all-star. The issue I think most people have, and I think it's okay to say this, I don't see anything wrong with saying this. I think the issue that most people have with Jordan Poole is that he's just inconsistent. He scores 26, he turns around and scores 14. He scores 24, he turns around and scores 10. He scores 24 again against Orlando, turns around, scores 11 against the Rockets. Like this is a pattern. This isn't just last night.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't a, Memphis did so well. They boxed and won Jordan Poole. Like, oh man, you got to give credit to. No, there is a pattern here, is what I'm telling you. It's not just Memphis playing great defense. Sure, they play great defense on anybody. But as I said to someone last night, I think they was just a Jordan Poole fan or a Warriors fan or whatever. I know for a fact they weren't a Wizards fan. If they were, then I don't ever see them. But they were trying to make the point that this falls on Keith, because Keith should be scheming. Keith should be, if you see what the opposing team is doing, create better opportunities for your scorer to get the ball and to score. My thing is how much are we going to keep blaming the coach for players' inabilities to be more of an aggressive basketball player? Like, if Bilal's shot is not falling, Bilal is going to get down on himself on the offensive end. Are we going to blame Keith for that? This is just the fact that Bilal needs to get in the gym and work on his game so he can feel better about his shot.
Right. So I'll just try to make this brief. So based off, I saw the discourse last night on Wizards Twitter. Do you think that some of it was probably more so the fact that last season people probably saw how you were very vocal about Jordan Poole and how frustrated you were with his poor play, and they probably had viewed it that, okay, you waited until he had a bad game to come out there and say these things. What is how did you interpret that? I mean, I know you said that you feel that person probably was more of a Jordan Poole fan, but do you think that, because it was multiple people who said something to you, that a lot of them looked at it like, oh, you just waited for him to have a bad game to come out and say something?
Let me tell you something, man. There's more people that got an agenda on me than I have on Jordan Poole. All right, I'm just gonna keep it a buck. There was people that came on my neck yesterday that I ain't seen all year. I talk positive. I haven't said anything negative about Jordan Poole all season. So yeah, maybe they were maybe they were waiting, whatever. But my thing is where were you guys when he has these struggles? Where were you guys when I see you guys when he plays well. Where are you guys when he struggles? That's my only critique. And so the things that I said about him last season, what are we comparing this to? Are we comparing this to what I've said about Kuz, what I've said about Bill? I would think that my critique of players is pretty damn consistent, because the Bill guys would say, oh, you just don't like Bill. And then the Kuz guys would say, oh, you just don't like Kuz. Well, damn. I guess I just don't like anybody is what you're saying. That can't be the case. because if that was the case, so what did you say about Ted Leonsis when he traded Bill away to the Phoenix Suns? That he just didn't like Bill?
Right.
What did you say? What did you say when we just allowed Tyus Jones to walk, and we didn't get nothing in return. The Wizards just didn't like Tyus Jones. This is a business.
Right.
And it's the same thing when it comes down to Kuz. People take things too personal, man. That's just the bottom line. Kuz doesn't fit the timeline. Are you guys more mad at me because Kuz doesn't fit the timeline? I'm not understanding.
Right.
So when it comes down to Jordan Poole, I think I'm just putting it out there. If Jordan Poole wants to be the leader, these are the expectations to lead the basketball team.
Right.
And trust me, I'm not saying nothing that the organization isn't thinking or saying, because they want Jordan Poole to lead as well.
Right.
But these are going to be the requirements to make that happen, to do that.
Okay. Fair enough.
All right, my dude. So, enough agenda talking, because I'm sure, everyone's going to find their issues with you, with DC Hoopla, with Wiz Takes, with State of the Wizards. They're going to find their issues, but we're going to leave them.
Yeah, I can still hear you.
All right, cool. Anyway, we're just going to leave them where they are, man. And we're going to move on. So, lastly, let's just briefly touch on the Washington Nationals, man. Juan Soto's, the news that came out of New York is that the Mets have agreed with Juan Soto on a massive new $765 million contract for 15 years with division rival New York Mets. What's your thoughts on that?
Whew. When I saw that money, man, I was like, geez. It's something about these former Nats players that they decide to take these big, hefty contracts in the same division as their former team. And we got to see these guys on several occasions this upcoming season. And the Nats was not going to be able to pay him that kind of money, man. And you almost have to wonder, do you blame ownership for this situation, for not locking him into a long-term deal? I mean, because we saw Bryce Harper leave. He's with the Phillies. We saw Trey Turner, even though Trey Turner was not drafted by us, he was traded, but of course, he's with Philadelphia. And now we're seeing Juan Soto with the Mets. I guess here's the question I have, and I can say a little bit. I'm going to say a lot more to this whole Juan Soto thing because I was thinking about it earlier. But my question to you is, do you blame the ownership for this situation or what? Or do you look at that Masson deal? Because I know that been brought up too, that Masson deal played a role in why we lost so many of our players.
Well, the Masson deal was just deferring the money. That was just kicking the money down the road. But Ohtani showed everybody that shit didn't matter because he got $700 million and he deferred $85 million of his contract, and he's not going to make what, 50, 60 million until 10 years from now. Mm-hmm. So, our players, Bryce Harper said it was about the deferred money and why he didn't accept the deal. If I recall correctly, what happened was we had offered Bryce $320 or something, and then he didn't want the deal because we deferred the money. So we said he would get bulk of his money probably 10 years down the road.
Right.
And then the Phillies come and they offer him $330, which he ultimately agreed to. I think what happened was the Lerners came back and they offered him like $350. Mm-hmm. But because the money was deferred, he didn't want to accept that type of contract.
Right.
And so, the same issue applied to Trey Turner. The same issue applies to Juan Soto. They just didn't want deferred money. Now, obviously, you saw that at the end of the day, Trey takes $300, Bryce takes $330, Juan takes $765. In order for us to keep all three of those guys, it was going to be $1.4 billion anyway. And those three guys are not worth $1.4 billion.
Right.
No way in hell are they worth that. So how I look at it, man, it's like, I guess I'm more disappointed that the Nats couldn't retain at least one, because look what happened with Steven Strasburg when we gave Steven Strasburg his contract.
Right.
He got injured and he couldn't stay healthy. And that was my issue. Is like, you let the big bats go. You let the guys go who can actually score you runs. And the guy that can get and keep guys off the base path and keep guys from scoring runs, that guy got injured. And now he's a retired baseball player. So we ultimately lost in allowing our star players to walk, man. So it's just bad, man.
Well, here's the thing too. So yesterday I saw a tweet, and somebody made a very good point that. So we lost Bryce, we lost Trey Turner, we lost Juan Soto. But if you think about it, those guys are not going to be remembered as Nationals. If you look at it, look how much time has went by since Bryce Harper has been there with Philadelphia. He's going to be remembered as a Philly.
Oh yeah, no question.
So if you really look at it as time goes, like, only Nats fans is going to say, "Oh damn, what we had here, damn, it would have been nice." But when those guys are finished playing baseball, they're going to be recognized for whatever team they finished their career with. Like, take Barry Bonds, for example. Does anybody ever bring up the fact that he started out with the Pittsburgh Pirates?
No one talks about that.
Nobody talks about it. So if you think about it, as time goes,
Mark McGwire in the Oakland A's.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So nobody talks about that. I mean, if you even want to take it to like the WNBA, what is Elena Delle Donne going to be remembered as? A mystic? Or anybody bringing up the fact that she started out with the sky? No. So I'm saying all of to say is that at some point as Nats fans, we just got to accept the fact that these guys had just went on to create a legacy elsewhere. It would have been nice if they could have been like, Steven Strasburg or Ryan Zimmerman, where you get drafted by your team and then you retire with the team that's drafted you. But unfortunately, these guys, the talent that they have, they were going to command way more money than those two players that I just named. And
I think go ahead. My fault.
And I think what we're hoping for is that the players that we have now, that we don't repeat that same mistake. So maybe that's the reason why. I mean, I don't know what the situation is as far as ownership. I mean, at one point the Nats was still on the market. I don't know if that's still the case. We haven't heard anything about that. But if the Lerners are still trying to sell the team, maybe new ownership, maybe the team, maybe the new owner will spend the money.
I kind of disagree with you on something. I do, believe it or not. I think I disagree about the fact that people won't remember Juan Soto as a Nat, because he won his only World Series so far with the Nationals, and Trey Turner as well. Like, Max Scherzer is going to be always known as a National because he won, even though he's playing for other teams as well. I guess my thing is you're right from a standpoint of Bryce Harper, because guess what? The Nationals put out like a 20-year anniversary video, and they got everybody in there except for Bryce Harper. Like the organization stone cold left that dude out of all the highlight reels. Bryce Harper, he won 1 or 2 MVPs with this. I know he won an MVP at least 1 year with this, and he won the home run derby with this. I mean, he has some claim to fame. Like, there's definitely some claim to fame there with Bryce and the Nationals organization to at least include him in a highlight reel video for your 20th anniversary. But man, like you should see this video, man. I don't think I seen Bryce anywhere in the video. So you see Juan, you see Trey, you see all of the people who won a World Series with us. You see those individuals. You see even Kendrick, Howie Kendrick, Howie Kendrick is more of a Philly than he is a National. Like Jason Worth. Exactly. Jason Worth is probably more of a Philly than a National as well, but these guys really came here and put their stamp on the organization, man. So I say all that to say, like, I think Juan will definitely be remembered, but it depends on what he does with the Mets. And here's another thing, too, that I wanted to bring up, is that his Mets deal, even though it's 15 years, I think he can opt out after the 5th year.
Mm-hmm.
I think he has an opt-out clause in that contract. So I'm pretty positive that he ain't gonna stay a Met all 15 years.
Right.
But who's gonna be willing to take on $51 million every year after that?
Exactly. That's the thing. And I think when I said that as time goes on, people it's going to probably eventually not necessarily forget, but they're not. I mean, if you look, even with Anthony Rendon, I mean, he's been gone since 2019. Well, really 2020. He's been gone. It's about to be 2025. He's been with the Angels since then. So as years go by, once it becomes a decade, people are going to eventually not even think about it as much. And that's why I'm saying that. So
I get what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying that. So if you look at it, even in the NFL, let's take Deion Sanders. How many people really associate him with the Atlanta Falcons?
Or even the Niners. Didn't he win one with the Niners?
He won with the Niners, but they only remember him more as what? A cowboy. So that's what they're going to link him to. They're linking Deion to that. So with these guys, what I'm saying is that, Bryce is going to be remembered as a Philly. Trey Turner is as well. Depending on how many years Juan Soto is going to be remembered as, he's going to be remembered as a Met. It's going to be so far down in the past when it comes to what they did with the Nationals that it's like, okay, yeah, they were once Nationals, but that's not what we remember them as. We remember them as being a Met, or we remember them as, again, Barry Bonds. Nobody remembers him as a Pirates fan unless you're just a diehard MLB fan and you know your history. But you know him more so when he played with the Giants. You don't even mention the damn Pirates at all. And that's the reality of it. It's going to get to that point. One last thing, and then I'll let you see what you guys say. I mean, I'll go back for the old heads who are older than us. How many people, when they talk about the Baltimore Bullets and they talk about Earl of Pearl Monroe, do they actually link him to the Baltimore Bullets? They remember him as a Knick. Some people didn't even probably know he played for the Baltimore Bullets. Now, we know that his jersey was retired by the organization, but most people remember him as a Knick.
Yeah, no joke. Most people remember him as a Knick for sure. I don't really have much else. I just felt like, I don't know. I'm a burn Nationals fan, man.
Of course.
It's different. Like, I'll say this. I don't know what it's like for the Wizards Bullets organization to win the championship, because they haven't in my lifetime. So I've never experienced that. I wouldn't know what that feeling is like. Coming off of a championship and then blowing your team up, the next year or the next couple of years. As an NBA team, I think ownership does everything that they can to keep those dynasties going or keep those championships alive. Like Boston didn't break that up. They won a championship and they kept their core, right? And so in the NBA and basketball, it's different because, you sign your guys to 4 or 5 years and the salary cap allows you to keep certain core guys and you go off of that, right? Whereas MLB, it's different. If guys are still within their rookie deals or their skills and they're coming up on contract extensions, the ownership has to be willing to pay. And they got to be willing to drop the bag. Like when we won the chip, we had to select between Strasburg and Anthony Rendon. Like that was a very tough decision because we knew that we couldn't pay both guys.
Crazy. Not
with Trey coming up and Juan Soto coming up. And guess what? We ended up not signing those guys any damn way.
Right.
Which it's just a tragedy, man, because I don't know what the learners, I don't know what the son at this point is going to do. Is he going to sell the team or not? Whoever takes over the damn team, all I ask is write the checks.
Yeah.
I mean, damn, K Jose, how many times have you and I talked about the Nationals building up their farm system and allowing superstar players to walk, man? How many times have you and I had that conversation in the past?
Seemed like every offseason.
And we still having it, bro, because James Wood, Dylan Cruz, these guys are going to be the next line of young CJ Abrams. These guys are going to be the next young guys up that's going to demand money. And what are we going to do? We're just going to allow them to improve just so we can allow them to walk to the Mets or the Phillies for more money? Come on, we got to cut this shit out, man.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I think eventually they're going to start going to the damn Braves. I mean, shit, they've been going to the Phillies and the Mets. The only other team they can go to is the damn Braves. Yeah. I mean, you would hope that. I mean, the way the market is for these baseball players, man, God, man, it's going to be interesting because we may see a player get $1 billion contract. I mean, we're not that far off. And as we know, depending on who the owner is, if the owner is worth a couple of billion, I can tell you right now, I'm pretty sure that owner be like, I'll be damned if I'm gonna have a baseball player getting paid the same amount of money I'm getting paid. Like, who's the damn owner? Me or the player? So
the owner of the team is the player too.
Exactly. Like, shit, should I be down there in the damn dugout? I mean, it's getting to that point. I mean, again, seeing that money that Juan Soto got, that's what you call betting on yourself. I mean, we saw that before when we had that conversation about Ian Desmond, and he had that contract offer by the Nats, which was like, I think, a 4-year deal, $100 million, and he declined that deal, and he betted on himself, and he ended up getting less with, damn, who did he end up going to after us? He got less somewhere. Yeah, he got less elsewhere. So that's like a rare, but we're not seeing that now. We've seen,
I think, the Rockies or something. He went to the Rockies or something.
Yeah, he did go to the Rockies. We're seeing Bryce getting the bag. We see Trey Turner get the bag, and we just saw Juan Soto get the bag. And you're gonna have to pay your players. You're gonna have to pay them. I mean, you can't dance around that. You gotta play them. You can't continue to say, okay, well, we won't pay this player. We'll just trade for a bunch of other young players, only to do what? Just like you said, build them up and then send them away when you don't want to pay them. Like, oh, no, we're not paying you $800 million. Well, if you're not going to pay them $800 million, there's another team that's going to pay them $800 million.
Exactly.
So we can't, to your point, you can't close that checkbook. You gotta open that motherfucker.
Precisely. All right, my dude, that will wrap this episode of State of the Wizards up. I want to thank you for coming on today, chopping it up with your boy. If you're new to the channel, again, be sure to share, like, and subscribe. And if you get to this point in the video, when you watch the whole video, drop us a comment. Let us know that you watched the whole video. We definitely want to chop it up with you guys in the comment section as well. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. We'll check you on episode 54. Peace.